Hello, my name is Rosanamod, and welcome to the rosanamod podcast. Want to modify your life? That is corny, but I'm going to keep it in there. This variety show brainstorms solutions for everyday challenges, unlocks your secret potential, think outside the box with creative ideas that improve your business and your life. Get inspired with special guests, get motivated with how-to projects for the whole family, and learn that life is too short for anything less than being happy. Laugh with me or at me, it doesn't matter. Somebody's going to laugh. Hey everybody, it's Rosanamod. Welcome to the Rosanamod podcast, or as I like to now call myself, the Rosanamod Variety Show. Doesn't that sound great? This is episode 34. Episodio 34. Free lesson. No, you don't have to thank me. Sit down. It's okay. Standing ovation. Standing ovation for Ro. Anyway, today I wanted to discuss immigrants and my immigration and how it affected my social life, my work life, and just my life in general. The words have always been a challenge for me. For those of you who are used to speaking the English language, it's very easy and it's second nature to you. Well, congratulations. For me, it was not second nature. I didn't speak, as you know, I didn't speak English until I was about 10 or 12. That's when I was really comfortable with the language. Maybe it was about 12, but still not comfortable enough to be one of the cool kids where I would not be beaten up all the time or fighting all the time or just being made fun of all the time. So words like, and I mentioned this in episode, I believe it was 29, The Troublemaker. Being from Uruguay, South America, we speak Spanish there. Spanish is a very different language from English, obviously. If you've ever tried to learn Spanish, you would understand how different it is. English is not an easy language, however. There are so many different things, and I think there was this comedian, Gallagher. If you remember Gallagher, if you don't remember him, look him up. He was the one with the sledgehammer and the watermelon. He was one of my favorite comedians. He had this thing that he said. I don't remember exactly all of the words that he used, but for example, what is it about the English language? And he said, for example, tomb, T-O-M-B, and comb, C-O-M-B. Comb, tomb, spelled the same, different first letter, but it's a completely different sound. That kind of stuff always really bothered me. I could never get that. Like, how is that possible? I couldn't get it. So I'll tell you a little story, which I mentioned in episode 29 in The Troublemaker, regarding the word naked that I mentioned. I was in 4th grade, and I was in Mrs. Vasey's class in Brooklyn, New York. I'll never forget this. And she said, she wrote on the board the word naked, N-A-K-E-D. And everybody started laughing. All these kids started cracking up. I'm thinking, why is everybody laughing? And I asked the girl next to me, what's funny? And she said, naked. It means when you don't have any clothes on. And I didn't get it. So I was like, why is everybody laughing though? How is that funny? I don't understand the joke. So she started using the word in a language, the teacher. And she said, it cannot be seen with the naked eye, or something like that, you know. But the point is that she used the words naked eye together, which really confused me because I just learned what the word naked was. So I'm sitting there going, how could the eye be naked? That doesn't make any sense. So of course, your friend Rosanna raises her hand, and the teacher looks at me and, you know, what's going on? And I said, how is the eye naked? And she said, oh, well, it's a term. It's the term that means naked eye when you don't have glasses. So when you just use your naked eye, you're using your eye without any kind of assistance or help. It's natural, in other words. I looked around the class. People were giggling. You know, some people were pointing fingers, and I noticed that some people had glasses on and some people didn't have glasses on. Mrs. Vasey happened to have glasses on. So I, of course, did not have glasses on, said, as any intelligent person would say, why don't I have glasses on? I need my eyes to have clothes. So I told her, well, I need glasses because I don't want my eyes to be naked. Well, of course, everybody started laughing. I was made fun of the whole, the whole month or the whole rest of the year, I think. It was so ridiculous. It makes sense, though. I mean, that's how my brain would work. And I think that's how anybody's brain that doesn't speak English would work, because it's a literal way to learn and to understand things. The words that you hear have to make sense in your head visually, I think. So for someone who doesn't speak the language, you're learning something new, you need to pick up as many things as you can. This set me up for failure countless of times as I grew up and as I went into high school, because I didn't understand what the cool terms were. Like the cool things, the cool quote unquote. I'm doing the quote unquote things with my fingers. The cool kids always had the cool terminology. Even the curse words were cool to me. I remember the word, what was it? Or I'm trying to think if I can say it. I don't think I can say it. I'm not going to say it, but or maybe I could. All right, I'm going to try. I'm going to say it. The word was dickweed. And some people would say that word. And I always thought that was so funny. And I would just laugh because I thought weed was pot or marijuana, because that's what they would use. Now, I was a teenager in the 70s. So, of course, in the 70s, that was, I guess you still use weed now, the word weed. But over there, where I grew up, it was like pothead. People would say pothead. And I'm thinking, what is a pothead? Of course, I'm thinking pot and head. It's very literal. So for me, dickweed made no sense at all whatsoever. I was so confused, and I was always made fun of it. Always people used to call me, oh my God, you're so goofy. You're such a dork, a complete dork. I think I still am, technically, because a lot of the words I don't make any sense to me. So that's where the complication was. Now, fast forward into my 20s and 30s, and I'm listening to people say, what happens when you're at work and you're an immigrant? Let's talk about that, because, who probably doesn't look like she's an immigrant. Physically, I don't think I look like I'm an immigrant, but I am. I am definitely under that class. And people know that I am. But what happens to the people that, that really look like they're immigrants, that they definitely look at, or they sound it, and they have very thick accents and not able to maybe express themselves the way they want to. But I think that they do express themselves, but they express themselves with an accent. I have a lot of friends that have very thick accents, but they're very intelligent and they understand everything in the English language, and they have no problem reading or understanding what a word means, but they still get suppressed and they still get held back because of their accents. And I'm here to tell you who do not know that is a complete discriminatory action, and it is liable. So let's just face that right there. Okay, accents cannot be used. If you look like you're an immigrant, that of course cannot be used either. Any physical attributes that are negatively derogatory, considered derogatory in your work, it's discriminatory. So that's one thing that's really good to understand, but it's also a challenge, because everywhere that you go, you still have that thing in the back of your mind where you're like, I still am not from here. Like, I'm still not a natural born, this is still not my motherland, put it that way. So it's sort of like you're adopted. I was adopted by my mother America, and I live with my adoptive parents America, but my natural born mother and father are Uruguay. Do you see what I mean? Does that make sense? Okay, I'm trying. When I was in my late 20s, I was divorced, and I had 2 children, a single mom, and ex-husband, was not in the picture. And I went dating, looking for, I guess, replacement for my ex-husband. And I remember one night in particular where I went out with some friends. There was 4 of us. 3 of my girlfriends were very, what's the word? We're not friends anymore, so I could say it. They were very butchy type looking girls. They were very athletic, not feminine in any way. Just tomboys, I guess you can say. Say butchy and tomboyish types. So we went to this dance club of all places, and they looked, very rugged. They had jeans and sneakers. One of them had shorts and sneakers. It was just weird. And of course, here I am, the oddball. I remember exactly what I was wearing, and I was very dressed up. I had, black slacks, a lime green satin shirt, and these heels, and I looked really nice. And I sat through about 2 hours of watching my friends dance with guys that came over and asked them to dance, and nobody asked me to dance. And I was sitting there thinking, believe it or not, this is what I thought. They know that I'm not from here. Which is ridiculous, because nobody knew anything about me. It was a club with strangers. But yet I felt so indifferent. I felt so rejected and so out of place that I went back into this hiding spot that I picked for myself, which was comfort in, I don't know how to describe it, but comforting myself to think that they know where I'm from. They know that I'm not from here. I must look like an outsider. I must look like a foreigner. That's really what it was. I look like a foreigner. But I really don't look like a foreigner. I don't think I do. Do you think I do? I don't look like a foreigner. Not that it's a bad thing, but I'm saying, why weren't these people asking me to dance? I couldn't understand. And then towards the middle of the night, this guy came over to me. I'll never forget him, because he was wearing a cowboy hat, and I thought that was so cool. Nobody else was wearing a cowboy hat. This was not a country dance. It was like a disco. And he came over, and he sat down, and he said, "I've been watching you," which is kind of creepy. "I've been watching you, and I saw and I noticed all of your friends were being asked to dance, and all of these idiots are not asking you. And I wondered, are they blind?" He said, which really made me feel good, because I knew I looked good. I don't want to toot my own horn, but this is me in my 30s. Yeah, I looked really good. He said, "Are they blind?" And I said, "I don't know." I don't remember what I told him. I might have been conceited and said something like, "I know, right?" Something like that. And he just laughed, and he's like, "Would you care to dance?" And I'm like, "Sure, I'd love to." And we danced like the whole night away. The whole night. Just me and him. He just said, I did sit down and ask him, "Why do you think it is that nobody asked me to dance?" And I kind of was waiting for him to say, "Well, you look like you're not from around here." But he didn't. He said, "You look intimidating." And I said, what? And he said, "You look," and I'm not trying to sound conceited, but this is what he said. "You look too good to be true." Like, I was kind of hesitant before coming over to you and talking to you, because I thought you would tell me to go F myself or just go away. Like, I thought you were going to shoot me down. And I said, "Oh, really?" So I look conceited. And he said, No. It's not that. But girls that look like you don't usually dance with guys like me. And I understood what he meant. And I thought, okay, that makes sense. He goes, "So these guys," that asked your friends not to make fun of your friends. He's like, "But they're less intimidating. They know that they're going to say yes. They're going to get asked to." So it made sense to me. And I thought, okay, so this is the stronger one. This was the alpha male who asked the alpha female, which is me, to dance. And that made sense. And there you go. What does this have to do with immigrants? Well, it has to do with the fact that I felt like an immigrant that night. I really did. I felt really bad until he asked me to dance. But I was sitting there a good 2-3 hours before anybody, talked to me. Nobody would come over and talk to me. It was really humiliating almost. And after we left there, we had gone to another club like the week after, me and my friends, same friends. I remember I thought, well, let me dress down a little bit, because where I'm from, or my country, and not just my country, but even being raised in Brooklyn, we're always used to dressing up. So jeans and sneakers is something it's almost like a Southern thing to wear flip-flops and jeans and sneakers. I'm used to dressing up. So maybe I kind of overdressed for this club, because this is a Florida club. And this was like back in the 80s. So no, I'm sorry, it was back in the 90s. So I said, this time I'm going to see if I can fit in more. So I wore jeans. I still wore my nice shoes, but I wore jeans and a top that wasn't so shiny. I remember I love big hoop earrings and big jewelry, and I took those down and I just wore little studs and no bangles or anything like that, and didn't poof my hair up about 5 inches. I poofed it up only 2 inches. Just kidding. But I didn't poof it up that high like I had it before. I was like a real disco girl from New Jersey. I didn't really, I'm not making fun of New Jersey because I lived in New Jersey, but that's kind of like I was like, like the nanny. But like my nails were all done and everything. All that kind of stuff was okay. My hair wasn't as big. I didn't put as much makeup on, and I kind of toned it down a little bit. And I still didn't get asked out to dance. Nope, I didn't. I still didn't. So that whole feeling of not belonging, and that whole feeling of not knowing why you're not getting asked to the prom or to the party or to the special occasions, does come to a point where you start questioning yourself, and you start feeling bad about yourself, and you start lowering your expectations of people, and you start thinking, that really nice guy over there with the suit, he probably is too good for me, because I'm just a foreigner, and I'm gonna look at the other one who's probably doesn't make that much money, who probably is more on my level in my mental state, not my real level, in the way that I feel about myself, matches more me, so I'll go out with him. And that's where I think I made the mistakes. I lowered my expectations because I didn't have high expectations of myself, because I really did have very low self-esteem. And that did come from my immigrant status, my not feeling like I was a part of anything, trying really hard to learn things. I would watch a lot of videos. I would watch a lot of MTV back in the day. I'd watch, look at fashion magazines and try to be cooler and read up on, ask more friends, what does this mean? What's BYOB? It means bring your own beer, you idiot, those kind of things. What is cool and what's not cool? Why am I not cool if I do this? Why am I cool if I do that? I never understood it. It took a really long time for me to accept who I was, and for me to accept that, become familiar, and not familiar, but become comfortable with who I was in my own skin and in my own person. And that's sad, because I missed a lot of years, and I wasted a lot of time with idiots and jerks that weren't anywhere near my level, who didn't deserve to be with me. And unfortunately, I think I helped them feel better about themselves, and made me, in the long term, feel worse about myself. So they kind of like sponged my energy away from me, kept it all to themselves, and moved on to better things. And that's where I think I should say all of my ex-boyfriends need to send me money right now. Do it right now. Seriously. Really, because you owe me. for any kind of happiness that you have in your life right now. If it wasn't for me, you wouldn't be happy. So you can thank me now by contributing to my PayPal. But anyway, no, seriously, I really think that makes a big difference. And then when you have kids, when you raise your kids by yourself and you do struggle, you try to make ends meet, you carry that whole stigma onto them. I think maybe they see it, maybe they suffer too. That's that's a long, deep subject, but I definitely did use that in my social engagements, and my dating and my love life definitely suffered. And also my work, they offer you a certain amount of money and you think, yay, thank you, I'll take it. Instead of negotiating and slipping that little paper back and saying, what? No, you need to go up a little because I've got experience. But deep down, sometimes the stigma was, I'm not good enough for this place. I have experience, but I don't have a degree. Or I have experience, but, I'm a foreigner. It's weird to hear me say that because I don't condone it and I don't live my life that way anymore. But it is true that I did live my life that way. And I definitely did do these things. There was a time in my life where I actually worked 3 jobs at one time. I had 2 kids under 10, and I worked a full-time job at an insurance company, a different insurance company than the one that was giving me headaches. This one was also giving me headaches, but it was different. And it was a Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, and then I would go from 6 to 10 and work as a janitor with this company. These friends, I was looking for a part-time job because the daytime job wasn't enough. And instead of going to school and learning a trade or learning something else, I took from my parents, which is another episode altogether about how you don't learn about finances from your parents until later in life, and then you teach them about it. It's kind of like that for me. I wasn't raised that way. So the way I was raised was the more you work, the more you make. So work more. Like the Jamaican from that show. How many jobs do you have? 23 jobs. 23 jobs, man. You have 23 jobs. You're so lazy. I've got 35 jobs. I forget what show that is, but it's funny, but that's how it is. It's true. So you work more, you work harder, but you don't work smarter. And that's something that immigrants, or most immigrants, at least how I was raised, don't know. That's how they live. So with that work ethic, of course, I worked the full-time day. I worked the part-time nights, and on weekends I worked at a hospital in the emergency room and in the admitting, just for people that were coming in. And I was also a translator, so when people came in and didn't speak English, it was a perfect job for me. I would have loved to have that job full-time, but they didn't have an opening, so I only did the weekends. And when somebody would come in and they didn't speak English and they spoke Spanish, I would help them with their insurance papers, fill out their paperwork, or translate, the doctors and nurses, triage nurses or whatever they were there for. And I would translate for them because there was nobody that spoke Spanish on the weekends in this hospital. I was exhausted all the time. I had no life. I had no... all I saw was paychecks and how it paid things that I needed, and medical and insurance that I had was, thankfully I did have it. So all is well, but I didn't have a life, and I suffered for that. And if you are an immigrant and you feel like you don't belong, you have to remember that you speak 2 languages, not 1. You already have the upper hand. You've got two languages now. And there's a lot of people that wish they did know the second one, but they don't. Whether or not you have a degree makes no difference. And I never understood that because I have a lot of experience. But, they want to look at the degree. Hey, you can look at it. But when I had all of these years of experience, they should be looking at that more. And that's it. So heads up, and immigrants are a big part of this country. I definitely paid my dues. I definitely was discriminated against. I definitely know what it looks like to be discriminated against. I've seen it in my parents. I've seen it in myself. It sucks. I mean, there's nothing good about it, and it takes a long time to struggle, but you really have to dig deep inside your own heart and really dig out the best parts of yourself and really believe them. It took a while for me to believe in myself. It took a while, but I'll tell you what, use me as an example, okay? Even with the struggle, and I know that a lot of you have accents that you're dealing with, and maybe it's hard for you to express yourselves because maybe you came to America as an older adult or an older child, and for some reason you still have the accent. Let me tell you that my parents still have very thick accents. If you don't believe me, listen to episode 11 where you get to meet my parents, and you can you can listen for yourself at how they sound, and they'll tell you the struggles and how they lived and what happened when they came here. But if you're dealing with that, that's a different story, but it still it shouldn't hinder you in any way from progressing, simply because it's not how you sound that should matter. It should be the content of what you're saying. So, and that goes with everything. You can't judge someone just by the way they say something or the way that they express themselves. You have to really read and listen to the content. Some pretty looking person who has nothing to say is useless, but if you have somebody who might not be as attractive, who says something that's really intelligent, that's going to demand a little bit more respect, I would think. Same goes with an accent. You have to find ways to practice also and improve yourself. So how badly do you want what it is that you are looking for? How badly do you want that goal? So you really have to learn to accept the things that you can't change. And I know that's really corny. I hate that saying. It says, you have to accept what you can't change and whatever. You don't have to accept anything, of course, but it really does depend on how hard you work. And now, I didn't have the problem with the accent, but I also watched a lot of television as a kid. I also engulfed myself in books. I really did. I sometimes find it hard to articulate myself still to this day, which the podcast does help me, which is another reason why I like to do the podcast, because I do end up practicing my language. What I have in my head sometimes doesn't come out through my mouth, and I think you guys can relate to that. So I'm better at writing it than I am verbalizing it, but it's practice. Like I said, it's practice. I think if I listen to my very first videos and I listen to my videos now, or videos, see, here I go. I already screwed up. If I listen to my podcast from the very beginning and I listen to my podcast now, I think that maybe there's an ease, or maybe it's more comfortable. But then again, I've never been afraid of talking in front of a group or anything. I guess what I'm trying to say is, look at me as an example as far as how I make myself fit in to places that I am not comfortable with, or I wouldn't have been comfortable with back in the day when I didn't feel good about myself. I have a very high confidence level right now. Not just now, like at this second, but compared to 30 years ago, my confidence level is completely off the charts right now. It's not even, I wouldn't even say it's vanity, because it's not really vanity. It's confidence. And there's a difference between being confident and being vain. Confidence and conceit are totally different things. I'm very confident. I know exactly what it is that I'm looking for. I know exactly what it is that I want. I know exactly how it is that I have to get to the things that I want. My problem is maybe consistency in that. Because right now it's hard for me when I have overwhelming factors, that take over my life, that I have to control. I have to do things. A lot of things going on, by the way. Not in anything negative. Everything is positive. but it's a lot. So I'm trying to go through that. If you find that you want to improve your life, well, then go for it. Improve your life. What is it? You have a low paying job because they don't want to move you up because you have an accent? Okay, then try to improve on your accent. If they're douchebags, I mean, let's just be honest. If you're working for a douchebag who doesn't want to move you up because of your accent and actually has told you that, then you might want to look for an attorney. I'm just saying. Because that's illegal. Okay, they cannot judge you on your accent unless you're a public speaker, right? But if you're working like in data entry, that has nothing to do with your accent. So that gets me angry, when people tell me that. And I've had friends tell me this, and that just really makes me crazy. How are companies still doing this? And then look at your friends. Who are you hanging out with? Are you talking to only Spanish people or people from your country? I'm not just talking about Spanish people here. If you're from Germany, if you're from France and you want to improve your English, are you just hanging out with your French and German friends? Are you just hanging out with your Italian friends? I mean, you have to make friends that speak English. They're actually American so that you can practice. I have a friend from Romania. Her name is Nella. I call her my sister, my prietena mea, my best friend, right, from Romania. And when she was here, she talked to me. She learned English like within 4 years, I think. She hadn't learned English anywhere else. She didn't go to school. She learned from listening to people and hanging out with people that spoke English. So you work harder, you listen. Stop watching television in Spanish or your language. Force yourself to watch children's television like Sesame Street, Electric Company, or children's shows that teach you about the ABCs and words and pronunciations and that kind of thing. Get on YouTube. Watch the old Electric Company shows. I think the older shows might be easier to understand. That's what I was raised around. I mean, I don't even know what the new shows teach in English, but look at YouTube and just pull up Electric Company children's shows. Look up old Sesame Street shows. Look up even Mr. Rogers, Listen to people's dialogue. Listen to radio shows. Listen to people talking all the time and relate the words, the sounds. Put your headsets on when you go to sleep and listen to English. They have a lot of English courses, online courses that are free that you can listen to, that you can pull up on your radio, on iHeartRadio or Pandora or something, and just pull them up and listen to them. You see, you're not going to progress if you're going to hang out with people that are still talking your language. How are you going to learn anything? I didn't have that. That's probably why I learned as quick as I did. Because I went to English schools, I learned, and now that they don't even have schools open, that's just ridiculous, completely dumbing up America right now by not putting kids in school, you're going to be left behind. So don't let them put you behind. That's really crazy to me. You have to go to school. So don't listen to your Telemundo or your Univision that your mother's listening to. Get away from the television. Go watch English shows. And if you're the mother of a child like me, who's an immigrant, and you want your child to learn English, then turn off the Univision and Telemundo and put on a television show that your child can learn from and that you can learn from, so that you can teach your child, and that when your child comes home from school and says, I have an F, they're not going to lie to you and say, es fantastico, like I told my mother. It is actually F for failure, okay? Which is a true story. So don't do that. Go and learn. Learn. It's the only way that you're going to put yourself within the grasp of success. That's the perfect way to say it. Otherwise, you're going to be left behind. And right now, with these mandates going on about things closing, you are going to be dumbed down. Don't let them do that to you. Do not let them do that. This is the best country in the world. I know that you guys that don't live here are probably thinking, no, my country is the best. Okay, well, whatever. I am an immigrant, I can say that this is the best country in the world. For me, I love America. I love it for all of the opportunities that it's given me. I love it for all the opportunities that it's been given to my parents. I love that I have learned a new language being here. I love that I have access to the rest of the world from living here. I love that I have the freedom of speech. I love that I have the freedom to be able to express my thoughts and go anywhere I want and do mostly anything I want to do without having to be micromanaged by any kind of a weird big tech, which is actually happening right now, which is sad. This is why we come here. This is why immigrants come here. We come here because we love America. We come here because we want to improve our lives, because we leave behind the place that we don't want to be in anymore. And for an immigrant to leave their home motherland, their language, their culture, and everything that they know, to come here to learn a new language that they don't know, to live with people that they don't know, to be around strangers and craziness. That's a huge thing to say about how desperate it is and how much we love to be here. People die just to get here. What does that tell you? If America was as bad as the news tells you it is, then they're lying. You know why? Nobody risked their life to leave their own country to come here if it wasn't worth it. So on that note, I will say to you, just try as hard as you can, learn as much as you can. I'm open to take your questions. You can talk to me in Spanish. You can email me in Spanish. I write and I read in Spanish, I am bilingual. So if you want to talk to me, send me something. Si me quieres hablar, estoy a punta para contestarte. A rosanamod.com. Me agarras ahí en el email, rosana@rosanamod.com. Me mandas un mensaje o te pones en Instagram, me mandas un mensaje, rosanamod. Do whatever you gotta do. Me hablas, yo te contesto. No hay problema. Yo entiendo el español perfectamente. Okay? For you guys that's, I've already said this to you in English, so I know that you guys understand. All right, so hopefully that helps somebody out there. Get a little chutzpah. Get a little moxie in yourself and just be confident. Damn it, be confident. You're Wonder Woman. You're Superman. You are the future, and you are representing your country here. And also, you're showing a really good example to your children that are the new generation, and they really need to learn how great America is. So you need to teach them. You need to show them, okay? All right. If you have any questions for me, feel free to email me at rosanna@rosanamod.com and send me your emails there. I will respond. You can also find me on Instagram, rosanamod, and you can send me anything you want there. You just let me know that you heard me. And that's it. I will talk to you guys soon, and ciao.